Welcome to the Invest for More Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark Ferguson, and I am your host. I'm a house flipper. I flip 10 to 15 houses a year. I own 13 rental properties with a goal to buy 100 by 2023. I'm also a real estate agent. I've been licensed since '01. I run a team of 9. We sell close to 200 houses a year. So on this show, we like to interview house flippers, landlords, and the best real estate agents in the business. So stay tuned for some great shows. If you want more information on my rentals, on the numbers, how I buy properties, check out investformore.com. Everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and welcome to another episode of the Invest for More Real Estate Podcast. Today, I have another awesome guest, a guest who's a little different from who we normally talk to. Stacy Hall is a real estate agent, but she focuses on REO sales, which are bank-owned foreclosures. That's how I've really been successful in the business. And not only does Stacy handle REO properties for banks and HUD, but she has a BPO business, a broker price opinion business. She's a real estate investor, and she has her own property management business as well. So she really has a lot of different things going on. Stacy, I'm really happy to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Great, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be with you today.
Yeah, great to talk to you. So you started as a real estate agent in 2000, and I always like to start from the beginning. What made you want to get into real estate?
When I licensed back in 2000, it kind of started out of, I don't know, I'd say I fell into it. I bought a foreclosed house, and I bought other ones before that, but this was a foreclosure that I bought. And the agent didn't do a lot. And when I got to the closing table, saw how much money he made, I'm like, wow. And he really didn't do a lot of work. So, that's the outside perception from anybody that's not a realtor. I have a way different opinion now, but that's what brought me in it. I saw what he did, saw what I thought was super easy money, took my license, and then the rest is history. I licensed in September of 2000.
Very cool. And one thing I always ask, what were you doing before you got your license? What line of work were you in?
Prior to that, I worked for, it's now AT&T Wireless. It was Singular and then Ameritech before that while I was working there. But I ran a call center in a small town in Illinois, had worked there for multiple years, and had a very heavy customer service background. That's what I did prior.
So you're used to talking on the phone then?
Oh, heck yeah. That's my moneymaker, is my ability to sell.
Right. And being an agent, I know with the internet today and all the online leads and all the different technology they have, I think people get away from talking on the phone. But really, if you want to be a successful agent, you have to be good on the phone.
Oh, big time. You have to answer your phone or you'll never make it in this industry, is my opinion.
Yep, and I still can't believe how many agents do not answer their phone and don't call people back and don't check voicemail. But that's another.
Exactly. That's a whole other show in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. So, how long do you think it took you before you really got the ball rolling and became successful and started closing houses as an agent?
I had a really good sphere of influence when I first came in, and I was very aggressive. I wasn't afraid to go out and talk. So when I first started, I started with a major franchise, and they had some good training, but they wanted you to farm and do all that, and that wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I hit the streets doing expireds and for sale by owners. I could convert a for sale by owner into a listing, so I really focused as a listing broker off the bat. At the time, I was like, buyers are liars. I'd had a ton of my cars, so I thought I was going to focus on that listing side. I'd shown, 50 houses to one buyer and saw the easier money I thought at the time was in the listing side. So hit the streets there. I had my first closing about 45 days in. My first year in the business, I think I closed to a month, 20 or so was my first year in. So I was pretty successful. I'm downstate Illinois, Champaign, Illinois area. So it's a smaller market. Not the Chicago where there's, hundreds of thousands of listings. We literally have 1,200 houses a year sell there. So.
Oh, no, that's awesome. You did very well in the beginning. And one thing I see new agents do a lot when they get into the business is they take class after class after class. They try and make sure they know every single rule and every single, how to do everything before they just get out there and talk to people. But it sounds like the first thing you did was just get out and talk to people and start, meeting people.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, that's the best way. When you're new, I mean, you can use your sphere of influence, the people you know, but it's personally, I'd rather work with other people than the ones I know. Sometimes, as well, get out there, meet different people. And I just found it really easy to get out and talk to the people wanting to sell their houses that didn't sell, give them creative solutions, things I could do for them. So in this industry, it's all about relationships, is what I found. And I found that pretty early on in my career, as, get out, get your face out there. So, yeah, that's where I found my success. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Get out there and talk.
Right. Very cool. And when you're looking for those FSBOs, were you driving around? Were you looking for advertisements? How did you find those for sale by owners?
Yeah, it was the pre-Craigslist day. I don't even think Craigslist was out then. So, yeah, it was driving around and just looking at the signs, going to, in the different neighborhoods. My kids were heavily involved in sports at the time, so we'd go into different towns, and as I was going in, I'd write down a for sale by owner number, and I'd call them that night. And so, yeah, that's basically how I found them, just driving around, hitting the streets, something a lot of people don't do anymore, knocking on doors.
Right. Oh, very cool. So you did very well in the beginning, obviously. Selling 20 houses your first year. I mean, most agents don't sell that much even after they've been in the business 10 years. But
right.
how did you progress into the REO business, the foreclosure side of the business?
It was actually funny. I fell into it. I was probably 8 months in the industry, and out of the blue, somebody had called me. I don't even know how they found my phone number, but it was the bank wanting me to give them an opinion of value on a home they had just foreclosed on. And at first I was kind of like, it doesn't sound like anything I want to do. And they're like, it's a quick $75. We just need a few photos and, some comparables. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So I went to it, did it, and sure enough, they sent me my check real quick, and I thought I was done. And I'm like, wow, this wasn't bad. This was kind of quick money. And, when you're new, you're always looking for different things. And 2 months later, that same bank had called me back and said, hey, you did a really good job. We think you're right on track for the money. Would you want to list this for us? And I'm like, yeah, I've never done it. Sure. What do you need me to do? They were like, just put it on the market for the price your BPO is and get it sold. And so that's what I did. And we had it under contract in 15, 20 days, which shocked me because our average days on market for the MLS was about 45 at the time. So I'm like, wow. And it went to closing. It closed quick, closed easy. And I'm like, this isn't bad. And I guess they were impressed. And it's funny, it's Aquin. They were my first client ever. So that's how I got into the industry, was with Aquin, who's multi-source now. But it was quick and painless. And then they liked it, and they started sending me more and more and more.
No, that's awesome. That's funny because I had been in the business probably 5 years. I got licensed in 2002. And a company randomly called me and asked me to do a broker price opinion for them. And I had no idea what it was. I'm like, what?
Right.
You just need to, value it. And I'm like, okay. And I actually faxed it back to them, which it wasn't, they had email and everything, but that company was still faxing stuff. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of easy. So I started looking into it and doing more and more BPOs. And then I think Aquin gave me my second listing.
Your second.
Yeah, and I think US Res gave me my first one. But no, that's funny. Both companies are completely different now. So.
Oh, heavens, yes. Totally night and days.
Yep.
How it's changed in 14 years. It's amazing.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, which is most people listening, but Aquin now pretty much lists all their properties across the country with an agent in Florida. And once in a while, they list them with local agents, but at least in my area, everything goes through an agent in Florida. I'm in Colorado, which don't know how that makes any sense, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
So
Illinois and Georgia is that way as well. They basically use our BPO photos for their MLS photos, which drives me crazy. So I don't even do their BPOs anymore. So it's
Right.
That's how it is
here.
For us. Yep.
All right. Well, that's cool how you got started. And I imagine you grew your business. How did you go about finding more clients and doing more BPOs?
I honestly started going to the 5 Stars, the REO MAC conferences. Once I had a nice steady business. I was doing right about 50 to 80 bank-owned properties a year after my probably third year in. I did 10 probably for Aquin the first year, and then I picked up City, did about 10 or 15 for them, plus the Aquin stuff. And so I just, started picking it up. And about my 5th year in, I decided, hey, maybe I should go to some of these conferences and see what these are all about. And they were super expensive. I think my first 5-star was like $4,000 to register to go as an agent because it was so popular. And there was 10,000 agents there. And just networking again is that customer service side. Get out, talk to people, and so I picked up a couple new clients, and then Fannie Mae was my next big client I picked up, and that was like a whirlwind for me. That was that opened the whole doors to tons of listings. So and
right.
that was
that's awesome.
Yeah. 08 when I picked up Fannie Mae. I picked up several smaller ones prior to that, but Fannie Mae was 08.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been to 5-star a number of times in different conferences, and that's really what helped my career take off too. Was just not just meeting the asset managers and the banks, but meeting other agents and seeing what they're doing, making friends. That was a huge bonus to my career.
Oh, definitely. And absolutely. And you're right. It wasn't networking with the asset managers. They were kind of the aloof unicorn that nobody could find. You heard about them, you knew they were there, but where were they? It was meeting the other agents that had relationships and, helping me figure out who I needed to talk to. So that's absolutely what helped my career too. So that's pretty cool. It sounds like you were pretty much on the same path I was.
Right. I got started a little later. I didn't get into REO probably till 2007 or 2008. But yeah, same kind of way I got into it. And it's funny, I wasn't at 5-star when it was crazy with the 10,000, 5,000 people, but I heard stories. Yeah,
wow.
I've been there after that when it was smaller. But I heard stories about asset managers, trading name tags with agents so that they could go to the restroom without being mobbed by agents and just all kinds of crazy stuff.
Absolutely. So. I did that with IndyMac. There was an IndyMac asset manager at one, and she was just being hounded and so I gave her my name badge. I'm like, here. She's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't care. And so it was funny, but yeah, absolutely. It is totally insane how they used to be. Definitely.
Right. And one tip for anybody who wants to be an REO agent, hounding asset managers is not the way to get business. That is the way to lose business. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
The quickest way to get out of the network on the do not use list is driving the asset managers crazy.
Yep, and handing a business card in their face and telling them how awesome you are is not how you get listings.
Or stuffing it under the stall door, like you said. Yeah, stuffing it under the stall door while they're going to the bathroom.
Right. Oh, that's great. So, obviously you've done very well, had, major clients in the REO business. And you actually opened a second office. How did you go through that process and decide to make that business decision?
At one of the conferences, I met my business partner, who is now my business partner, Ted, and he lived in Atlanta and had told me, how great the market was. And I guess I should back up. It's funny, when I met him at the conference, I like to say I was an REO agent before being an REO agent was cool, which in 08, 9, and 10, that's when it was cool to get into REO because retail had slowed down. So I'd met Ted there, and we'd talked and become friends, and he's like, it's a great market down here. And he was doing well on his own. He was with another company on a split. And so we just got talking, became friends, and I watched what the Atlanta market was doing, and we decided it was natural to open one up down here. I licensed in Georgia, and he ran the Georgia stuff for us. But Georgia's market was incredible, and it's funny, I look back. 4 years ago when I started coming here, maybe 5, houses were going for $20,000, $30,000 in Atlanta. And I'm like, man, maybe I should sell some of my rentals, free up some cash, and invest here. And I'm like, I just didn't know the market well enough. And Ted said I should, but I was like, kind of afraid as an investor to take millions out of a stable area where you're making good money. Now the same houses 4 years later that were selling for 20, 30, they're going for 150 now. So, yeah. Hindsight, it's like should have listened to the expert definitely, and went with it. But yeah, it's but that's how I came to Atlanta. We've done well here too. We do a lot of BPOs here, so we see a lot of different values. Atlanta's, I'm bigger in Illinois with the numbers I do. I know you said I've been real successful, and just to kind of give everybody an idea, I do about 400 to 450 bank-owned listings a year throughout Illinois. And we don't do Chicago.
Awesome.
Yep, all downstate, and that's, for not being in a major area, I think we do well. I've got a good team. We've got pretty good systems, but I enjoy it.
No, you do amazing. Those are amazing numbers. So congratulations on setting that up.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, in where I'm at in Colorado, 4 or 5 years ago, we could buy $20,000 or $30,000 properties. Here, I'm north of Denver, about 50 miles, and at the time, I'm like, I just don't want those old, crappy properties. And the same properties are worth $150 now. So I did buy a lot of rentals here, but so I'm not. They just weren't the really cheap ones. So. At the time, it's just like, there's no way they can be that cheap forever. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of how it was here in Atlanta. And where I'm from, downstate in Illinois, it's been a stable market. We're a small college town. University of Illinois is right there, and we never really had the big dive. And I know it sounds like doing 400 to 450 homes a year. Bank owns a ton for a small market, but it's pretty spread out. We cover from Kankakee all the way down to Metropolis, Illinois. So. It's a decent size area. I think it's 40-some counties. But compared to Atlanta, there's, I'd hate to even venture how many REO properties there are in Atlanta or some of these major markets.
Right. So how many miles do you think you cover in Illinois from like the farthest point one way to the farthest point another direction?
Well, I could tell you from our corporate office, which is in Champaign, Illinois, to our furthest away town, which is Metropolis, which is right there on the Ohio River with the Kentucky border, it takes 3 hours and 10 minutes. So it's, and then we also go north up by the Quad Cities, and that's about a 3 hour and 30-minute ride. So we have offices in between, but from where I live, that's how far away it'd be. So it's a pretty good haul on some of them.
Yep. Nope. And a lot of people think REO agents have it easy and they just, don't do a lot of work. But when you realize the area they cover and the different things they do, I think people realize it's not quite as easy as it may seem.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. There's nothing sexy about REO some days. You go into the houses that, the animals have urinated all over everything and the carpet's still there and there's bugs crawling and definitely. Yep.
And I've covered, because I'm in not a real, we're sort of rural area, but they have me covering HUD up to 90, 100 miles away sometimes too, just because there's simply no other agents out there who can do the work that an REO agent can do.
Yep, absolutely. And that's HUD's my big account right now. I do a lot for HUD throughout Illinois, and that's kind of where I'm at. There's so many rural towns will call me and they're like, "Hey, Stacy," and I'm like, "What? That's in Illinois?" And I look it up, and it's a town of like 200 people, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" So
wow. Yep, and they want their inspections in 24 hours, so it's not like you can take a couple days to get out there. You got to go right away.
Oh, exactly. Yep, and then you got to go weekly for some of the asset management companies. So definitely a big challenge for us REO agents. It's like I said, it's not as sexy as everybody on the outside thinks it is. Everybody thinks we just stick it in the MLS and it sells quickly and you make lots of money. I don't know about you in Colorado, but my average sale price for Illinois is only $44,000.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
on those REOs, so.
Yeah, our market has gone crazy. So while our market price, our average used to be about 90 to 95, I think, for the houses we sold. Mm-hmm. And now it's up close to 200.
Wow. You've done well.
There's no REOs or HUD homes left here because our market's done so well.
Out.
The inventory is almost gone. I mean, it's probably a tenth or less of what it was 4 years ago. So,
well, in our market, FHA financing is really predominant. So it's always going to be, because we're so rural, that's just the number one way people finance. I do a lot of work for VA also. VA loans are a little more challenging on the foreclosure side. They take a lot longer to come to market, but VA and FHA are our two main types of financing that are used where I cover there. Now, our Georgia office, their average sale price is much better there. I think we're at like a 140 price range on our bank-owned properties in Georgia, so much more lucrative in Georgia. You don't have to do near as many.
Right. No, that's nice. You have to sell a lot of $40,000 houses to make it worthwhile.
I was talking to one of my friends that's a realtor in California, and we were talking about how many I did, and he's like, yeah, I wish my volume would pick up like that. And I'm like, you just got to work at it. And he goes, but I did just double side one of my $400,000 REOs. I'm like, let's see, $800,000 in volume divided by my $44,000 sale price. That's 20 of mine. What are you complaining about?
Right. Yep.
Definitely.
Very cool. I'm curious, what do you think your biggest challenge as an REO agent is? Is it managing your team, or is it handling expenses? What's the biggest problem you run into?
Handling expenses. The banks do ask a lot of us, putting utilities in our names, submitting for reimbursement. That's a major moving piece. And with Fannie Mae, when I first started it, I was out $10,000-$15,000 any given month in utilities. Now the banks are asking us to pay for them to rehab the homes. There are several of them that are like, hey, we need $6,000 worth of work done, pay the vendor, and we'll pay you back in 30, 40, 45, 50 days. So it's expensive, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. As an agent, you have to have $5,000 per property just kind of sitting around waiting, for things like that. And then you sit and wait and make sure you don't miss out on any reimbursements. I've got a very good lady that does our accounting. She's all over them. At 30 days, she's emailing saying, hey, where's our money? Where's our money? So, but that's, from what I hear in the industry, that's the number one area people lose money as a broker, is in their reimbursements. They forget about it. They don't submit it in time. And then the flood of calls. We get tons of inquiries on our properties. I mean, they're low-priced properties. There's tons of equity sitting in these because they do need so much work. So we get a lot of calls.
Yeah, nope, I would agree with you on the expense part of it. I don't think people realize how much responsibility and how much work it takes to have homes repaired, pay the people, keep track of expenses, and then you have to submit invoices the correct way to the banks. You can't just send them any invoice. It's got to be done their way. Every single bank does it different, so you've got to know all their systems. And then, some banks simply won't pay you if they don't have to. You have to keep on them and make sure. I mean, it's not an easy process to go through.
Oh, definitely not. Like I said, with the Fannie Mae I had, and it's funny, this asset management company is no longer in business, but he has a TV show now, which annoys me to watch. But he was always 15 to 20 grand into me every month. Yeah, he lives in a $5 million house in Atlanta, but he can never pay me back on time. It's like, okay. But yeah, that's where the frustration is.
Yep, I know who you're talking about. So. Very cool. So, very awesome job on the REO business on the real estate side. But not only REOs, but you've also started working with hedge funds in Atlanta. So how did that start? How has that been?
And actually, we got in with the hedge fund from our property management business. We were actually managing their properties that they had bought through other agents, and we were their leasing agency. So we were responsible for finding the tenant, and we had a referral into them. They're like, you guys are doing a great job. Would you like to buy some for us? And we're like, okay, what kind of referral fee are you going to charge? And they're like, we don't charge anything. You get all your own commission. I'm like, wow, that's a novice thing. You don't hear that much in this industry. There's always somebody taking a little bit in the REO segment. So we went through their training course and started purchasing properties. And since January 2015 is when they started, they're over 250 in Atlanta now. So they're aggressive. They've got a 7.5% cap rate, which, some people are like, wow, that's insane. How can you even do that? Atlanta's got really strong rents. So they're a good company to be with. They've done well. They're in 10 other markets, I think, right now throughout the U.S., and expanding to 2 others right now. But, yeah, we kind of fell into it, like I said, just from another piece of our business that we were doing well for them.
Wow. No, that's great. And then one thing I want to talk to you about is your property management business, too, because I've thought about starting one, then thought against it just because of the numbers and the volume. How did you get into property management, and how has that business been?
We got into it. Well, as I said, I own some myself, so I've always managed my own. And then here in Atlanta, we had a relationship with a national company that we knew, and they brought us in on one of their portfolios through doing some REO work for them. They said, can you guys build a division and do this? And we're like, well, if you have numbers, we'll build it. And they definitely had numbers. So the biggest thing that I've seen in the property management industry is the numbers are getting cut. They don't want to pay. Used to be I could get a 10% of the monthly rent for my monthly fee. It's down to 6. Some people want you to do it for 5 now. And that's kind of the big challenge. It's a numbers game. If you're doing 1, 2, 10 a month, it'll eat you alive. You have to be at right about 100 a month that you're managing monthly to make it worth your while. Otherwise, the numbers, you get a lot of calls. Rentals probably have triple the calls that an REO listing or even a retail listing has. So a lot of staff needed. But the way we looked at it was if we could get, for every one property, you get first month's rent. We're very aggressive. We rent probably 80-90% of our own listings. So we keep all the rent. So that's first month's rent goes to us 100%, and then you get your management fee monthly. So you could look at it, one rental in a year would equal the commission on one listing. And that's kind of how anybody thinking of getting into it, that's how we decided if it was going to be worth it.
Right. How many properties are you managing right now?
Probably 175.
Okay. And yeah, my sister had a property management business, very small one compared to that, but I helped her back in high school working with it. And the calls we would get are just for people wanting to rent, for people with problems. I mean, it's just, it is completely different than trying to sell real estate. It takes a lot of time.
Well, a lot of times you've got to have really good staff. I mean, tenants love to call at midnight because their furnace isn't working, and I'm like, was it working earlier? Yeah. I'm like, oh, great. So it's knowing the troubleshooting. Hey, is there a switch somebody could have flipped? Things like that. And people don't realize, tenants call for everything. They're expecting to not have to do anything. And that is, we get calls for everything. It's amazing.
Right. No, I agree. And we're in Colorado, and my sister would rent to college students a lot. That was her primary tenant. And so she'd get these college students who'd never lived out on their own before, and now they're living in a house. And I don't know how many times for a Christmas break they would turn the heat off. Like, just turn it off.
Oh, man.
For some reason, our pipes froze. I'm like, yeah, you can't turn the heat off when you leave.
In Colorado, right? Florida,
right,
maybe, but Colorado, yeah. No.
Yeah, they wanted to save money on their heating bill, so they just turned off the heat. It's like, no. So after a while, that became very clear when you rented the house to never, ever turn the heat off when you leave.
Yeah. Probably my favorite call is, hey, I'm out of town and my friend wants to run over to my house. Can you go let her in with your key? I'm like, what? No, it doesn't work like that. That's not a lockout.
Yeah. College students are always losing their keys, always needing you to make them new ones or let them in. So I think she got to a point where she charged them $100 basically every time she had to put someone back in their house.
Exactly. We've got that in our leases as well. So, yeah, property management can be challenging. A good staff is worth its weight in gold. I mean, don't try, if you're going to do the property management, buy quality, staff members. Don't try and go for minimum wage. You want somebody that knows what they're doing and has done it before. There's so many legalities on leases. Tenants unions in Illinois are horrible. So, you've got to be all over your repairs and stuff like that. So I've got one guy in Illinois. This has been 6 years ago. He's uneducated, no high school diploma. He was construction type of work. He bought 100 houses in a year, rented them all Section 8, and he is making it hand over fist. I mean, Section 8 loves him. He rehabs his properties beautifully. So it's possible to make good money being a landlord, that is for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep, for sure. No, that's awesome. One other thing I wanted to, you also have a BPO business as well besides the REOs. And I think a lot of people, when they look at the foreclosures, the REO agent, they think about, the houses they list and the commissions they make. But the BPO business can be a completely another source of income as well. So how does your BPO side of the business work?
It actually works very well. I started doing BPOs, like I said, when I first got in, was doing just a couple, and then BPOs have really picked up. For those who don't know, when a bank's foreclosing, they need to know what the home's worth. Used to be they'd pay an appraiser. for an appraiser to do a drive-by, they get $200. Now they can use a realtor to do the same thing, and they pay anywhere from $35 to $55. The rural stuff I can get $100 for. So I've consistently done about $150 a year in Illinois. It makes me $60,000-$70,000 extra dollars a year on top of my other stuff. So some of the banks will allow you to have other people do your photos for you. So I have what I call runners, or my agents will go and take the photos, put them into my system, and then we do the report real simply. Other banks require you to do everything. I try to not work with those banks because I really don't want to go do my own photos, just because of the time involved in it thing. Atlanta, Ted, he started doing BPOs right after we met in '08. So he started doing just a couple. He has, for the last 6 years now, done at least $350 a month. It's a $160,000 a year business. And he follows that same model too. So, of having others take your photos, and do the picture side of it for us. We use an autofill system that'll fill it straight from the MLS, and put it into the report. It takes us 5 minutes to do a BPO. Agents typing them by hand, it can take up to a couple of hours to type everything in. But we've got software that just dumps it all in there for you.
Right. No, that's awesome. And yeah, I've done BPOs myself too, and I think at the peak, I think I did, about 1,000 a year. And some of those banks that require you to drive out and take the picture of every single house is just like, are you serious? Do you know how much time it takes to drive out there, and you can't have someone else take pictures?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're like, I don't need to visit a property to know the value. I can look at photos and know, and those banks are crazy. Ted just got a big drop from one client the end of February, 350 orders in a week's period. It was a national company, and they were ordering them nationwide. I think they had 15,000 across the U.S. to place. And they called Ted, and they're like, how many do you want to do? And he's like, how about 350? He goes, perfect. Tell me your counties. So.
Wow.
There's money to be made out of that, is for sure. It's another good, we like to call it pillars of income, and that's kind of how we look at it. We've got our REO business. We also have buyer's agents that, take the leads. We have our property management business, and then we have our BPO business as well.
Oh, that's great. And then how many buyer's agents do you have in each area?
Illinois, we have 18 total throughout the 6 areas. Georgia, we have 8.
Okay, so, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we're pretty loyal. We've never looked to be a big brokerage, and it's funny, as I told you guys, I started out with a major national company with franchise fees, and I probably 3 years into it, I'm like, man, as I'd survey my clients, I'm like, why are you using me? And they're like, because you're you. And I'm like, not because I'm with this major company. And they're like, no, we don't care who you're with. So I was starting to think about getting out when the brokerage came to me, and they're like, Stacy, we like you. You're great. But we're all about our average sale price, and your little foreclosures are really just hurting our numbers. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he's like, I think you should look for another company because you're really killing our average sale price. And it's funny, I see him all the time, and we joke about it. And he's like, man, should I be kicking myself? Because they had floor time and everything. They missed out on so many leads. And so I thank him every time. I'm like, dude, you made me a millionaire by kicking me to the curb and opening my eyes.
That's crazy that oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, they were all about the their appearance. They had these $12,000 listings. Oh, my gosh, that's just below us, beneath us. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. So, yeah, it was funny. So, yeah, that's so we don't have franchise fees. And when we started the Twin City, it's like, why pay those big franchise fees? So.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And I've seen that too. Our office, is known as a foreclosure office. We have a lot of foreclosure listings. And I'll see other offices, put us down or try and, say, oh, they just list foreclosures. They just list those dumpy little houses. And it's like, well, we sell a lot more houses than you, and we make a lot more money than you, and we have a lot more leads than you, so we're okay with that. We're just fine with that image. So.
Well, and because the REO properties are priced aggressively, and there's always equity in them, investors love to call us. They know our listings. We have investors that subscribe to our website, and follow it because they know we put our listings on. We use video marketing on our website. So, they see the videos, they can tour the houses. We've helped people from, in other countries buy properties and never step foot into them using our video marketing. So it's all about being unique, but we get the same branding in our area. Oh, they're just a foreclosure company. You wouldn't want to put your house with them. Nope, we got leads galore coming in.
Yeah. No, if you're just a regular house seller, would you rather have a company with this, who never lists foreclosures and high prices, but they don't have many buyers, or would you rather have, a company with a ton of listings, a ton of buyers, a ton of leads that can help you sell your house? I think it's pretty obvious, but
exactly. Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Very cool. So another thing that we touched on briefly that I'd love to talk about is you said you have rental properties and you were an active investor before. How did you get started investing in real estate?
It happened by chance. I bought my first house, divorced my ex-husband. I kept that one, had remarried. We moved, and we were going to sell it. And I'm like, maybe we should rent it. Found a renter super quick, and I'm like, wow, that was easy, And Rantoul was a town that the Air Force Base had closed. There was a lot of, housing that was going super cheap. I had some money from when I had gotten out of AT&T, took my retirement, and bought 5 houses, and rented them very quickly. Went back in, got a loan to refinance those, and the rents were just incredible compared to what I paid for them. I was making I was probably at a 15 cap. It was a very good cap rate that I had on them. They were cheap properties, 10, 12, 15,000. I'd put 5 in them and rent them out for $700 a month, just because the people living there couldn't afford to buy the houses they wanted to rent. So I've got long-term tenants in all mine now, which has helped. I think my lease tenant is probably 6 years in. So when they come, they stay. I keep a good product. And so that's kind of how I built it. We just kept buying, 5, 10 a year and adding on to it based on the equity we had in the other ones. The banks loved to give me money when I had them rented that quick. I owed barely anything on them at the time, and my rents were so high. So getting money was no problem at that time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how I got in it. I kind of, once I really got into the foreclosure, and as you know, working for HUD, you can't buy any of your own listings. You can't even buy a HUD-owned property being a listing broker for HUD. So, and the more I looked at it, when I started working with the one client I told you about in Champaign that bought so many, he was looking at some, well, so was I. And I'm like, this kind of feels like a conflict of interest. If I really should tell him to buy it, but I want it. So that's when I decided, it's time for me to just focus on real estate. I don't need to add to my portfolio. I had a good portfolio, very happy with it. So that's kind of twofold why I fell out. HUD said I couldn't buy any of the good properties because I was their listing broker, and it just felt like a conflict to me. I wanted to be able to tell, anybody working with me that, yes, buy it, not like some agents that are like, oh, don't buy it, and then you see they bought it 6 months later when you're looking at it. So.
Right. No, and I understand that too. And I buy a lot of properties here too, but I don't work with investors myself anymore. I don't, I very rarely work with traditional buyers unless it's friends or family. And so I'll just have, someone on my team work with them. I'm like, don't tell me what they're doing. I won't tell you what I'm doing. So
that's probably a good idea. I never even thought of that. Yeah. I probably have passed on a lot of them. Should have come with that mindset. So no, definitely.
Yeah. And then, so are those properties, you bought them for $12,000, $15,000, have they gone up in value, or has it been a pretty stable market where you bought those properties?
Oh, no, they've gone up significantly. Most of them probably $70,000, $85,000 now on average. So they're all paid off free and clear now.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would just
have rent?
Tenants rent and dump it. The rents, because they're long-term tenants, I'm one of those landlords. I'd rather keep you and keep you happy. They keep a great house for me. I never have issues with them. So I don't raise my tenants' rent, which I know it's silly of me, but my philosophy is rather than have to pay for a turn and rehab the property, I'd rather just keep their rents locked in for them. So, but yeah, I could definitely rent them for much higher than what I'm getting right now. But that's my strategy anyway. I teach my investors different. They should have an increase in their lease. in most markets, you don't find the long-term tenants. I think mine's unique because it's a rural market, maybe. People that come into these small towns stay forever, it seems like. Atlanta, we turn our properties once every 2 years, it seems like here. They're looking for the next best thing, or they've moved, and with traffic, Atlanta, you don't want to live too far away from where you work just because you could sit for an hour.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very cool. I feel the same way about, if rents have really increased here, so there's been a few properties that we've turned over, but there's so much work that goes into re-renting it. Like you said, a tenant usually does some wear and tear to a property, so you've got to spruce it up. A lot of times it's just not worth it to get a new tenant for a couple $100 more a month.
Exactly, yeah. No, definitely.
Very cool. So obviously you have a lot of different things going on, which I love. I do the same thing. I've got, rentals and flips and a blog and, my real estate team. So I really get the multiple streams of income coming in. I'm curious, what are your goals for the future? Are you planning just to kind of continue with the same things? Do you have any new plans that are going to change things up a little bit?
We're looking at a couple other markets right now, maybe expanding a little more in Georgia. Illinois, we cover, pretty much the state. We are looking to maybe get into a couple other more major towns, the Savannah area in Georgia. So that's kind of what our looks are this year. And then we're going to bring aboard probably 5 additional agents for Atlanta. As you know, HUD's being reawarded. So the company that got the Georgia area had Illinois, so I've got a great relationship with them. They were not allowing any new brokers in under their old contract, so I never could do HUD in Georgia. So we're looking forward to having a good relationship with them. And then our biggest new thing that we're launching in Georgia, we bought a bus. We're going to do home buyer tours. We're really
cool.
committed to the investors being able to go out and see multiple homes. So we're going to be doing a home buyer tour twice a month with our agents. So where we'll take everybody out to 10. We'll do one for owner occupants, and then we'll do a separate investor seminar. So that's our 2016 plan.
Very cool. I'm curious, obviously you're not really doing much investing yourself, but it sounds like there's still a lot of opportunities for investors in both markets that you're working in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's the numbers are staggering here. Even the homes that we're buying for the hedge funds that we work with in Atlanta, they're buying retail homes. They're not even having to buy the foreclosed homes. There's still equity in these retail properties. If you look right, Atlanta's market right now, I think there's only 34,000 homes for sale, which is crazy. When I first started down here, there was 90,000 homes for sale. So there's a huge shortage, which should equate to a seller's market. But a good cash offer with a low due diligence time really goes through quickly. We're seeing, owners take $10,000 off a list price, listed at $110,000. They'll take our $100,000 offer 3 days on the market. So it's, all about relationships, as knowing the listing brokers, being able to show that our clients have a good, solid track record of closing these. As REO brokers, Ted listed one. It was a $220,000 house in Grayson. It was worth $250,000 all day. We had 9 offers. Of those 9, 8 of them didn't even go to the property first. So they submitted blind offers. It's like, come on, you guys, and that's where we're different. We go and we inspect them prior to writing an offer. So, yeah, the investment, Atlanta and Illinois, they're both great markets to be an investor in right now. The fund we're buying for, and there's 2 of them, they've got a buy and hold, strategy. They are flipping a few of them as we come across those really good deals. They'll go ahead and flip them right then. But they're going to hold them for 5 years and rent them for at least the next 5 years is what their strategy is, which I think is a good strategy. If you've got some extra money, put it into that rental market.
Right. No, that's great. And yeah, I talk about this a lot on my blog, but I've got 16 rentals here in Colorado, and our prices have gone up so high, the numbers just don't work here anymore for cash flow. So I'm going to Florida next week to look at the rental market down there, but I've been exploring a number of different markets to try and find new places to buy in. Because
Tampa's got a good
awesome.
market. Tampa's got a really good rental market. I'll tell you, check Atlanta. The rental prices they're getting here. We take a house that we buy for $100. our investor will put 15, 20 in it, new paint, new carpet, new appliances, and it's a nice product. We can put it on for $1,400 and it's gone.
Nice.
The rentals, the shortage is just unbelievable right now for rental properties. I bet we get 50 leads a property a day, people sight unseen putting applications in. We want it because they found out from their friends, our client has a good product out there. So, yeah, any of you guys, if you're thinking Florida's a good market, Atlanta's rentals are just killer right now. So, and our clients very picky. They watch the crime maps. They won't buy in heavy crime areas. So they're buying in good neighborhoods that they see, the future values in.
Right. No, that's great. And it sounds like prices are still not, obviously they're not $20,000 or $30,000 anymore, but,
no.
You're still in a price range is affordable, around $100,000, where other places are just, through the roof right now.
Through the roof. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Definitely very affordable housing around here.
Very cool. And then in Illinois, are you still seeing, is there an inventory decreasing, or is it still steady because of the rural nature of where it's at?
Our rural stuff has been very steady. The Chicago, there's a lot of inventory in Chicago. Chicago's biggest challenge, I would flip in Chicago. Renting's a little tougher. Some of the areas are just, the rent prices are high. We took the same client out to Chicago, showed them the Chicago market, and, they could buy a house for $130,000. Put 10, 15 in it. Rents were $1,900 in that neighborhood.
Wow.
The challenge is if you're getting into a new market, understand the tenant unions and things like that. Illinois, as I said before, is very famous for their tenant unions. So you want to be good with those for sure. But, there's a lot of flips going on up in the Chicago market. Homes are selling quick up there. And then my downstate stuff definitely has been nice and steady. The rents aren't as strong, but the prices are so much cheaper. I've got some listings that are $5,000. You could put 20 in them and rent them for $650 with your eyes closed.
Wow.
So it's easier to put your money. You can get more of those the way I look at it. I'd rather buy 10 of them and pull $650 than spend $200,000 and get $1,500 rent. That's just how I've always looked at it.
No, that's great. And one thing too about Chicago is the taxes are very high for property taxes.
They're
so that
crazy
can really
up there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you see these awesome numbers when you actually put in all the taxes and everything. It's not quite as good as it looks on paper.
Yeah, and that's the reason they're driving $1,900 rent prices for a $130,000 property, because those people know they can't afford to own there. Those taxes were like $5,000 a year, which is just crazy. Downstate, you take a $130,000 house, where I'm from, and the taxes are like $1,400 a year for the same priced house. It's just crazy.
Right, that's a huge difference, and that's in Colorado's nice because on a $150,000 house, our taxes are like $800 a year, $700. So,
and that's
really
pretty
nice
much
taxes.
pretty much how Atlanta is too. You're looking, $1,100, $1,200 on a $140,000 house, which is nice. Some of the areas are higher, but for the most part, that's about what they are here in Georgia. So.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Very, very cool. Well, I've learned a ton on this interview conversation. I'm curious. I have a couple more questions for you. One, if someone wants to get into the REO business, do you have any advice or any tips for them, just starting out without any REO experience? Is it realistic to get into the REO right now in this market? Is it possible?
I know a lot of agents nationwide, and people ask me that all the time because I go out on different forums and I'll post information. And for me, what I tell everybody is try to sell some first. Go sell those HUD homes. You can sell any HUD home. They're out there. You can advertise them. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Sell one first and understand the process, because it's not as easy as everybody thinks. And becoming a listing broker is tough. They really are closed networks. It's tough to get in anymore. And the number of asset companies that are out there have shrunk, probably tenfold. Fannie used to have, 10 different asset management companies. Now they do everything in-house. And it's very, very tough to get in. So it's a good goal to have. but there is a lot involved, and you do have to have a strong bank account, to back these properties because you are expected to pay the contractors and hold it for 30 or 45 days. So my word of advice is get out, sell some, run some investor classes, get investors to want to buy, represent some investors and understand that side of it, and then I jump in.
Yeah, and one thing I always tell people too is start doing BPOs first, for some of these companies too, because that teaches you the business and gives you income and really can help you figure out what the business is all about before you jump in. Plus, it's much easier to start doing BPOs and getting listings.
Oh, absolutely. BPOs. And probably the biggest myth I hear is, if I do BPOs, I'll get REO listings. That's kind of true, and it was way truer back when I started because the companies ordered their own BPOs. Now they outsource. But you're right. Getting in to be a BPO agent is way easier, and it's quicker money. If you can do $200 a month, hey, it's no problem. Get out there, do them, get yourself some money being made. Companies like Specialized Assets, SAMs, that is one company that's absolutely true. If you do a BPO for them, they pay you for it, and if they get the property, they'll assign it to you as a listing. I think that's a nice thing to have, and that's one of the companies when people say, hey, where would I start? I'd start with SAMs. They'll take you as a BPO agent, you work your way in, and then you can get on their REO side.
And you're right. 5 years ago, there were 15, 20 companies like them that did that, but now most BPO companies don't have listings or just doing BPOs, but it's still, at least it gives you some experience and something to put on your resume too, if you're trying to get into the company.
Well, and it helps you know how to value properties. That's what being an REO agent's about, is the banks want to minimize their loss. They're already losing money. The houses are in need of work. None of them, let's face it, are in moving condition, or very rarely are they. And they want you to get there. Any agent can go and say, yeah, $10,000. Well, really, it was maybe $20,000, So doing the values definitely helps you get in tune with your market, and then you can become that expert, and you can just know anymore. My REO listings I can pull up, and I'm like, $25,000. I'll go home, pull my comps. Hey, what do you know? $26,000. I was right on the money. And when you do hundreds a month, you just know the neighborhoods, which I really think helps you, and it helps you in the retail sense too when you're working with a buyer or an investor. Because you've done these reports so much, you just know the neighborhoods. So
that's a great point. In something we started doing, because we've gone to more retail because of our market, is we'll actually do BPOs for traditional listings because it gives them so much more information than just a comparative market evaluation that, it kind of blows their mind that, well, wow, I actually see how you're valuing it now. It's not just, just telling me a number and then giving me, 3 sold comps. Like, oh, wow, this is great. So I think there's a lot of different uses for BPOs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Most definitely.
All right. So my one last question, which I'm sure you'll be happy with, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, if, they're an investor, home buyer in the Illinois area or in the Atlanta area, what's the best way to get in touch with you or your company? How should they go about contacting you?
My company is Twin City Realty. We're called that in Illinois and in Georgia. And anybody, if you need advice, I get tons of people asking me how to get in the BPO business. How do I start investing? Email is going to be the best way. My staff watches my email too. I've got great staff members that if I'm not available, they'd be happy to answer anything as well. Email me, and this is my personal email. It's Stacy, STACY, at stacyhall.net. I respond to everybody. I'm here to help. If you're an agent, you want to get in the business, heck, if you're in Champaign, Illinois, and you're listening to this, call me. I'll give you my same companies. I'm the type of agent, I'm not afraid. I know I do good work for my companies, so they won't stop using me, but I'll be happy to tell you how to get in. So I'll share with anybody my knowledge. So.
And you're looking for new buyer's agents too as well, so maybe somebody who wants to get on a great team could talk to you about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. If you're in Atlanta or anywhere in Illinois and you're looking to make a switch, we've got hundreds of leads that come in that we give out to our agents. We don't require floor time. So absolutely, we've got that option as well. I'd love to grow my Atlanta office. And like I said, get into some other markets here in Atlanta. So.
Yeah. And from experience, I can say if you're a new agent or an experienced agent, working with an REO team has so many advantages because of the leads that come in. It's awesome. So it's much easier than trying to do it all on your own.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right, Mark. That's for sure.
Great. All right. Well, Stacy, I know we've taken up quite a bit of your time. I really appreciate you doing the interview, enlightening us on the REO world, on property management, on BPOs. Thank you so much for being on the phone with me, and really I appreciate it a ton.
No, thanks for having me, and I love watching your blogs and stuff. I mean, you've got great information out there on your podcast, so I think you're doing a great service to our industry for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, yeah, thanks again. And, have a great weekend.
Hey, you as well. Thanks again, Mark.